What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's time to elevate and thrive. And I have an awesome show for you today. Welcome. My co-host, Dr. Angela, is here, as well as Dr. Anastasia and Dr. Julian. What's up, everybody?
What's up, Barry?
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's February, and I know normally we would talk about this in January, but I think February is actually a better time to have the goal conversation. The goals, like what we are doing, what we think we'd be recommending for people, because in January, everybody comes up with a ton of goals. They have resolutions, and it all kind of falls off by like the third week of January.
Mm-hmm. So true.
That's generally speaking what happens, which is why I really think that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like, let all your big goals like fall off, and then in February you can kind of get real. Get real with yourself. What are you actually going to do this year, and what are you going to work on? So I thought today maybe we would share something that we're going to recommend and think about for our patients, and then something maybe personally that we want to work on as well.
I love that. Yes. So, one thing I've decided I want to spend more time on this year with my patients is diving into detoxification and supporting that in people. Not that I don't, we don't do that anyway, but I feel like I've just recognized the importance of in almost every condition, whether we're dealing with autoimmunity or we're dealing with some sort of chronic illness or chronic viral infections, that there's, some underlying toxicity many times, and especially as we age. And not that we can't have toxicity when we're younger, but, it really starts showing up, I think, once you hit like your late 30s and your 40s and beyond. So I just want to incorporate that more, like have that conversation more, explore it more, encourage it more to, really like, okay, let's explore the mold and the metals and the chemicals and more infrared sauna, more ALA, just things like that. Just to, because we all see that, right? Pretty much with every person, the toxicity in people. So I'm excited about that.
I think that's great. Detox. It's the year of detoxing.
It's the year of detoxing. And I feel like it's kind of apropos, especially with, I don't know, like COVID has felt very, like it's just energetically, everything's felt very stagnant and, and I think people aren't, maybe, I don't know, just maybe aren't moving as much, and they're not, like just exploring those things. I know we're seeing a lot of depression and I think all of those things kind of weigh people down. I know that's a different type of toxicity. It's like an energetic toxicity,
It counts.
Well, it counts.
Yeah,
I feel like
totally
it counts.
agree with you. I don't think they're separate really. And I know in the past with patients, sometimes we try to dive into treating a condition right away that we have identified, and if their pathways aren't moving, like their lymph and their liver and things really aren't moving, those treatments are not nearly as successful.
That's
so
right.
I think you're really spot on for wanting to kind of lay that foundation early on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. And my personal, I have, of course we always have like business and financial and travel goals, all those things, but personal, I might say two things just quickly. One, I really want to work on energetic training more this year. And actually there's somebody, his name is Dr. Barry Julian. He's a New York surgeon who trained as a Chinese energy master that trains other people how to do that, which is really cool. And so I want to take like his course and get into the stuff like Joe Dispenza. I just think I'd like to incorporate more of that. And then, for myself as well. The other part is I realize it's been a long time since I've really been super fit, and probably before Amalia, my daughter. I exercise, but I'm like, I think it's time to actually now start taking it seriously again, and make it a priority, and within that, like self-care, like be better about doing all the therapies that we have here. I'm so good at recommending them for other people, right? It's like, oh, you need this and you need that. And I'm like, when was the last time that I did that? It's like that part of keeping it real, right? Like I need to do these IVs, I need to do the detoxification. Like, so that's my focus this year. So I think I've gotten off to a good start.
I think you've
gotten
you've been
start.
You seem like you've been really on it. So
I think I only do those things when I get hurt or I get sick. Last week I fell like in a snowboarding jump and I hit my tailbone, and that was the first time I like actually laid on the beamer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this actually worked.
I can agree.
And it's like sometimes you don't feel it until you're like, if you have an acute pain and then you try something and you're like, wow, like I stepped off the beamer and I was like, oh, I don't really feel as much pain. Last week I did an NAD IV and I was so sore, and like after my IV I was like, okay, like I'm actually not sore. I'm super mobile, and I had like a pretty good weekend of snowboarding, and it was super energetic, and I was like, wow,
felt good.
This is great. But sometimes I will say, when you know too much, it's like a little anxiety triggering, I think. Like,
you mean thinking about what therapies you would do? Like, what could I do with
like
this?
when you, just little things, like the IV was dripping fast. And I was thinking to myself, like, how I recommend IV therapy all the time. And I feel like patients do so well with a fast drip.
Yes.
And they're like, love the magnesium feeling. And they love the feeling of like being calm. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, I'm too relaxed.
Yeah. Is that a thing?
I'm like, oh God, but I need to get this done in between a patient. I only have 45 minutes, so just do it, Julian. And I'm like, God, my patients are such like way better at self-care than I am.
That's very true. And it's so, don't you find that? I feel like it's so true.
The things, sometimes I am really glad that I'm not my own patient. And I hate to say that out loud in a public venue, but it's true. And when I talk about my personal goals, they relate to that. But I did the NAD IV as well recently, finally, and I was a little concerned because I did it a little late in the day, and it wasn't a very high dose one because we always recommend starting with a low dose, maybe higher than I'd start with someone else, but still low end. And I can't believe how I feel like I'm a high energy person in general, but sometimes that energy is really all over the place. And I did it, and it was like amazing. I got up and got all these tasks done a little later at night than I should have, but I got like my house cleaned and my energy felt good, and it was a really clean it was a clean energy, not like drinking a lot of caffeine. And then I actually did go to bed and slept like a baby. So I was like, okay, well,
more of those.
I'm sold on it now.
I'm pumped. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay, yeah, you're
I'm trying it tomorrow.
Okay, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
A smaller.
Yeah, starting dose.
Yeah.
You'll do the starting
I mean,
dose.
I'll do it however much. I don't want to do like the 2-hour long.
Yeah.
No. We'll do the starting one we talked about. Yeah.
All right. So, Anastasia, when it comes to, for your kind of patient focus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for my patients, it all comes down to one thing, I think, really. But what I hear from patients more than ever, and especially in the last 2 years, are whether they come in for another reason or not, they talk about insomnia. They talk about anxiety and stress response. They don't say stress response, but people just kind of use that general term anxiety, but that can mean something different for everyone. And then I'm hearing a lot of people, a lot of women saying they can't focus, and they're really worried about their memory and their brain health. And I think they're really all tied together. I think it's very clear. And I think a lot of that has to do with, not some inherent flaw. A lot of people start saying they have ADD or starting to self-diagnose with some kind of a, disorder, when really I believe that it is adapting to a culture that doesn't support us in being mindful and focused, right? Everything's set up to be going in a million directions at once, multitasking, thinking that that's actually a good thing, like doing 10 things at once, when really that means not doing, doing 10 things at once means not really doing anything very well. Is what I'm learning slowly, and helping people to find mindfulness, and not just that catchy buzzword, mindfulness is everywhere now, and it's not really about an app or being able to meditate and breathe for 5 minutes. It's about really how can I help support people, as I'm trying to learn it better myself, in the ability to be present in each thing they do and kind of slow down. And I've been working with this amazing guide / he doesn't like to be called a counselor. And he has this saying, he says, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Oh. And, oh my God, when he said that, that pissed me off.
Why?
Because I'm like, but I'm so good and focused on some things, and some things I know I do halfway, and I'm all over the map. And over the last few months, I can't get that saying out of my head. And I'm like, you know what? That's so true. That is so true, right? That there's just this distracted way of getting through life. And that shows up as insomnia and anxiety. And so helping to kind of come up with a better set of tools for people to really work on that is my goal with people. And I think that will help people respond better to treatments and therapies, because a lot of times people come in and they're like, I didn't have time for that, or I forgot to do that, or I forgot to do that. And also kind of starting simple with people.
Will you give me that list when you're doing
when I master it, yeah.
The tools that you come up with.
So I know that doesn't sound exactly like, any specific treatment or modality, but to me it's like, I think it's also really foundational, just the way detoxification is foundational to the body.
I love that foundational focus. I think that's a great way to approach it. I mean, it's interesting because I was like watching a show last night and like watching a show while scrolling through Facebook and looking at Instagram, you know what I mean? That's like, I think metaphoric for how everyone lives their lives today.
So there's a book called Steeled Focus, and I haven't read it, but I was listening to a podcast on Mind Body Green with this author talking about all of these, ways that our focus is stolen from us culturally. And then once again, we think that there's something wrong with us, and how hard it is, not to just have to respond to that text right in the moment and not to be doing 4 things at once. It's actually was quite a good podcast. And just his, the suggestions are really simple, like get off the screens for real, like 2 hours before you actually go to sleep. Right. Pick up a book and retrain your brain to focus on a book, not screens. And just, and then
simple
gets into nutrition
difficult
stuff.
somehow.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before, and I actually try to harp on this with patients, is like, if there is no mindfulness, if patients are always running from a bear, they're always in that sympathetic mode. And I think we've talked about this where it's like, I could throw a bunch of things, IVs and sauna and all these supplements and diet and all that. But if your nervous system thinks that you're always running from a bear, no matter what I throw at the treatment plan, your brain will never be able to accept that treatment plan or that treatment or whatever, because you're running from a bear all the time, which is why that's why like Gupta program works. That's why brain tapping works. EMDR works. Like that's why trauma work is so important.
I can't you're so right. And then the other big piece of it, I think, is getting out into nature, because we're just locked inside on electronics all day, right? And it's like, just like kids, with like the idea of ADD, many people have coined the term, no, not attention deficit, but nature deficit. But how many of us adults are getting outside on a regular daily basis or even weekly basis? And
it's so true.
Very little.
Yeah, and that's
like
the
truly
stuff.
being out.
So I don't like throwing technology at it, like being like, oh, if I get this app and I put this thing on my head that's going to relax me, and I put this other electric thing on my chest that's going to relax me, and
versus going outside.
And then I do like, there's this whole thing of like, what's the word, forest bathing, but it's not. You're actually not outside. You're doing like
we explored that
not digital.
a little
what's the word for it? Virtual forest bathing. Like, why go outside into the woods?
Wait, so you put on the virtual
you
goggles
do.
and you
we actually
pretend.
Dr. Lori Marty was really kind of like pioneering that, was working with someone who they were gonna it was a whole thing of,
my personal opinion is
put
go
virtual
outside
reality
in the real forest.
That's how you get an increase in your natural killer cells.
So those things, and then the mindful part of eating, so many people are struggling with we give people all these diets depending on what's going on, but at the same time, a lot of the digestive problems and different things come from not sitting down, chewing our food, just being, I can't tell you how many meals I've had, like where I eat my lunch really quick on a break. And then I'm like, where to go? Oh, you're really good about not doing that, but Angela, but I'll just like be like, I'm really hungry, and I'll just eat it really fast. I'll run in there. And then I'm like, did I eat? Like, where did my lunch go? And that's not being mindful or focused. So
do any of those end up on your own personal list?
So my personal list is that's the main one. And then there's 2 other things that are really simple. And that is hydration and flexibility. Because I have, I was caretaking my dad before he passed away last spring. And he was super active and stuff, but his body was so rigid and he was so dehydrated. It actually, I think, led to the condition that sort of, was the biggest problem, and really, really inflexible. And then I realized, as much as I tell people to drink water, that I think I've been sort of on the end of being chronically dehydrated my whole life. Like I'll drink water, but I'm not really conscientious of how much. And I tell people, drink more water. And then the flexibility, like I did yoga like 3 to 4 days a week, probably for over 20 years. And I haven't really done it much the last 3 years, but in my head, I still think I'm flexible, but I'm not as flexible anymore. So getting flexible again.
And it changes, right?
Yeah.
I feel like as we get older, like
so those are my 2 core physical goals, because I eat pretty healthy and I'm pretty active, but I'm not putting that flexibility part in.
I think hot yoga.
Hot yoga,
that's the answer, because you have to drink so much water at hot yoga.
And lots of electrolytes with it.
Oh yeah, I loved hot yoga. It was fun, and it's cool because you're like basically pretty much naked in a room full of other people. I mean, that always is awesome.
I'm such a dude.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Come on, it's great. But listen,
I don't know. I was angry the entire time.
I'm
like, it's hot.
Hot yoga.
I did it 30 days in a row, and on the last day,
did you?
I blacked out.
Oh, of course you did.
Were you doing electrolytes?
I think I was just wiped out 30 days of hot yoga straight.
So we don't encourage to black out.
Was that like a dare or something?
Like that's like, I mean, that's like a natural high, right?
Yeah,
You're just
like
going into a whole different
it was crazy
phase. At least stretching in the infrared sauna.
I love that.
Actually,
I've been doing that at the end of my workouts. It's been great. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, you're up.
I'm up. Yeah. Okay. So, personal goal. So all 3 of you know that I just finished the 12-week crazy challenge of. Shout out to Sarah, my coach, and thank you, Barry, for referring me. But it was like 12 weeks of intense like fitness and macro counting, and I'm still doing it. And I learned a lot. I think that I was really, really hesitant to get into like macro counting and working with this coach, because I think that I thought that I knew a lot, and I really didn't know a lot about nutrition. And when I worked with someone who that's all she does all day, every day is talk about carbs and fats and protein and all that, I realized wow, I'm not getting the nutrients that I need. And actually I found, so obviously we talk about keto, we talk about paleo. I've tried all the fad diets, all of them, but it's interesting. Now that I have to sit there and be what's my carb and what's my protein and what's my fat, my meals are way more well-rounded than before. And so I lost 23 pounds in the 12,
Congrats.
well, no, maybe a little more, 14 weeks. And now I'm eating more, which is so exciting and very hard. But anyways, my goal is I work so hard that I want to take everything that I learned into 2022 and not revert back to, eating poorly, not moving, and gaining all that weight back. Because I worked really hard to the point where I mean, my partner, bless him, is very hangry most of the time.
Didn't I get you a coffee cup? Or no, that was a hand towel or something.
Yeah.
Do you feel like as you moved it deeper into it and towards the end, that became less so? Your body adapted to feeling less hungry or less?
Yeah, I definitely did. Okay. Also, I learned so much too. We know about how important fats are for our hormones, our brain cells, our cell membranes, and all that. And at one point, she had cut me down so low that I was, 1, pissed at her, and 2,
low on fat.
Yeah,
40 grams or 44 grams or something.
And I wouldn't get my period, and I just or it would be late, and I'd have days where I'd just be and I'd have days where I was just I just need fat. And it usually was the day right before my period. And I'd binge on
crave.
Fat. Yeah.
Crave fat.
And then I'd get my period the second I got it. And so it was so fascinating to just see these shifts and to incorporate my knowledge as a naturopathic doctor into this nutrition and it was really, really cool. And
that's something everybody should do. I feel regardless of where you end up, from a long-term sustainability standpoint, you'll find, I think, your path there. But the macro process is always enlightening. Your experience is, if a person sticks with it, is universally what they have, which is like, wow, I just didn't know. I thought I knew a bunch about food and eating, or I've done a bunch of diets, or I'm a medical professional, and there's still a lot of eye-opening moments that come through a process where you're diligently tracking the quantity of food and the composition of the food.
Yeah. And so my goal is to continue doing this, obviously, and continue doing it with life. And now that I'm kind of overweighing my food, but I get it. Like, I'm still working hard. I'm still in this challenge. But, I was thinking about this talk, and I was like, I don't have personal goals for my patients, because all of our patients come in and they have their own goals. And my goal as a practitioner is really just to support their goal. And in order for me to do that, I have to have like a diversity and knowledge in different tools. I think a lot of patients come to us and they've tried everything, and they come to us and they're like, they expect that, they're ready to try whatever you throw at them. And so I just really want to continue to learn. And I'm excited to have this knowledge, because now when I talk about, especially because a lot of people want to lose that weight from the pandemic weight, now I can now say, like, you're not eating enough protein. It's crazy how much protein you have to eat.
It almost always boils down to too much carbs and fats, not enough protein. And generally too, there's it's interesting because food. So I've worked with Sarah multiple times, and I have lost weight with her multiple times and gained weight back multiple times as well. Because one of the things that is challenging in working with a diet coach, a new macronutrition coach, is not so much, part of it is the sustainability of constantly weighing and measuring all your food. But there's also a lot that goes along with having an accountability partner coach whom sets goals for you that you have to hit, including step goals, number of workouts per week, amount of water you drink, right? And so all of those things combine together to facilitate what can be really great weight loss. But then when you take that structure away, paid accountability, over time, maybe your step count drops a little bit. Maybe your water starts to fall off. You work a little bit more wine back into your daily, stuff like that. And gradually your weight creeps up. Now, you should go through that process because you're going to reverse right now. So reverse is where you then start to build your food back up. Then what I would recommend is checking out this thing that I'm doing now.
Yeah, you told me about this.
This other macro program called Eat to Perform. And I begged Sarah, let me pay you, and I just want to send pictures every week of me in my underwear and my weight, and just tell me if I'm on track or off track. That's all. I beg you, please do this for me. I was like, it's weird, but I'm like, can I pay someone to send my pictures of myself in my underwear, and they just tell me, dude, you're getting fat or you're looking cut. She said no. I said, she doesn't want to do that.
Maybe it's the way you phrase it.
No, I phrased it. I was like, this is a great business opportunity that all of your clients would love. But anyways, I'm doing this thing now, and this is my goal for this is really eating more food. So now I'm on this other extreme end of the thing. Like, I had 1,000-calorie breakfast today.
Wow.
That was my breakfast.
That's like that's like 90% of what I can eat a whole day.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was my breakfast. It was like, and it was.
What was it?
Okay, so it's two whole English muffins. So that's 4 single English muffins. With 100 grams of avocado smashed on them. And then 2 whole eggs, 100 grams of egg whites, 6 slices of Canadian bacon, and like a cup of shiitake mushrooms. All goes on top. That's breakfast 1.
Were you able to eat it all?
Yeah.
Are you eating? It wasn't like oh my God,
the first week or two it was crazy and then I have yogurt with like 100 grams of raspberries, and that's and then a couple coffees, or 1 coffee with.
How long does that take to eat?
2 tablespoons. It takes that whole thing.
It would
take
about
45
like a
minutes.
week to
eat. It would take me a week.
Yeah. But on my
it's
like a thing. So my week intake changes, but they're all high. Like, I'm eating the minimum. There's like a low day where I eat like 2,400 calories, but that's every day is 175 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein to get. Hard to get that much protein. And then every day is like over 300 carbs, and then 80 to 100 grams of fat.
Hate you.
Oh yeah.
So is it any carbs? It doesn't have to be like
that's
slow
your next
burn or
no, any carbs. There's a sugar
it's just
goal.
macro, so it's not
really hard though.
So it's not.
Okay, my super day like 340 carbs.
But it can be just like white bread.
Like
super day.
3,400 calories.
Right?
Yeah. So super day is the day where you like spike your thing. Okay. Well, I was like, when I got on this plan, I was terrified because it was so much food. I was like, wait a minute, I was like to myself, I was like, how fat will I allow myself to become? And I was like 220. 230, I don't know. Am I going to gain 20 pounds eating like this? Here's the crazy thing. I gained like 3 pounds
Yeah, but you're probably working out a lot.
And I'm killing the workouts.
Yeah, see, that's how
and then are you going to, I feel like you're like so you want to gain a certain amount. You're doing like the Christian Bale thing
basically,
or something. And then you're going to
I'm gaining muscle,
and then you're going to try to like lose it all.
I'm on this program supposedly for 6 months.
Okay.
And they just keep adding food.
We're not
like
going to be able to fit
weeks.
you through the door.
No,
Guys.
I don't think because now I'm doing her like workout.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never been so active in my life. And I swear, you know, like we tell our patients like work out, eat, and sauna, and do IVs and blah, blah. You don't realize how hard it is until you're actually doing something every week. And I'm like, oh my God, how do people like
you work a lot too.
balance like I don't have kids, but having kids and working out and, you know,
and your
taking
job,
care of your health.
yeah, exactly.
And you just, now that I've gone through the struggle, I'm like, you just can't think about it. You just got to do it. But I'm thankful because I feel like the fittest I've ever been. And I feel strong. And I realize that I've always worked out to eat, but now that I track my calories, I'm like, I'm really going to get all my steps in, and I'm really going to drink all my water, and I'm really going to kill this workout because I want to eat.
Yeah. You want to, yeah.
And I want her to increase my,
food.
Oh, God.
Give me more food, please.
I definitely want to, consult with her because I don't think I've ever, maybe there's been a few little moments, but I've never really needed to lose weight. But that, you know, it's sometimes I can be like a skinny fat person. And so I really want to build muscle. So I'd love to work with somebody who would like give me a targeted way.
Yeah,
to
with
build
protein
muscle.
and
because I'll do like stuff I think is helping, but it doesn't necessarily do a lot.
No, it's harder to build muscle than you think.
Yeah,
I
know. I've tried to build glutes for like 10 years. I'm
still trying to build glutes.
2 ways. Okay, yeah, you're going to eat more, and then we got to get you on the glute guy. Brett Contreras is the glute guy. You took him on Instagram.
I'm going to contact
His
Brett.
Instagram is nothing but pictures of butts, before and after butts.
Yeah.
Like
they're natural.
Natural.
Okay.
Yeah. He specializes in women's butts.
So maybe he will
And
let
men's
you
butts.
send him pictures of you in your underwear.
He
Yeah, right.
would.
Yeah,
He would.
exactly.
But I'd have to wear a thong because he wants to see the cheeks. He needs to see the cheeks.
Flex or
He
non-flex?
wants to.
Right.
He needs to see that growth. All right.
I think we.
All right. Well, this is a great show. Thank you guys for being here.
This is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
you'll be back.
we'll have to report back on how our goals are
Yeah,
going.
Yeah,
that's
let's
a
come
great
back.
idea.
We'll do
Next-
maybe like a
next
3-month
podcast.
or a 3-month check-in. We could do it quarterly. This could be
sounds
a
good.
accountability podcast.
Yeah,
I like
I like it.
I
Okay.
like it
But
too.
I think we should touch like for 1 minute, like just touch base next time because I feel like
How that's
3
going.
months is it's a
A lot can
longer
go
than you
wrong in
think.
3 months.
Well,
Well, it could go
they
wrong in
say
3
what,
months,
3-4 weeks it takes to build a habit.
Yes.
Right?
So 4 weeks is
67
perfect.
days
Yeah.
on
The next
average.
time
It
we have our
takes
podcast,
3 or 4
we'll
weeks
check
to
in.
build a habit, and
Yeah.
it takes like 3 days to break it.
Yeah. It takes
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
It takes 5 years to build
takes
a habit.
right.
15 minutes to destroy it.
It takes me
Much
like 30
longer
minutes.
than
Yeah.
Okay, let's send
Shorter
it a
than 3
positive
days.
All right,
note.
all right,
But yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
so-
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Listening
Talk
and-
soon.